Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aging Rewired by Senior Planet from AARP. I'm your host, Sheila Solomon. In today's episode, we're talking about caregiving. More than half of Americans 50 and older are caregivers, according to the University of Michigan's National Poll on Healthy Aging. And more than a third of those caregivers report experiencing emotional or physical fatigue due to caregiving responsibilities. So here at Aging Rewired, we wanted to know how technology can be better used to help caregivers, not only with providing high-quality care to loved ones, but also helping caregivers themselves reduce stress and feelings of isolation. In this episode, you'll hear from one full-time caregiver, Nancy, about how she's been able to reconnect with community and her own musical practice by participating in Senior Planet's virtual open mic night. But before that, I'm joined in the studio by Amy Goyer. Amy's an author, speaker, and AARP's National Family and Caregiving expert. She's been a family caregiver her entire adult life, caring for her grandparents, parents, sisters, and other relatives and friends.
Family caregivers need validation. They need somebody to know they're there. They need to feel seen. And I think that's one of the best things we can do to help family caregivers. So I really try to make sure that they know that I know and we know what they're doing and how challenging it is and how amazing it is that they are there for their loved ones.
Thank you so much for coming on Aging Rewired, Amy. You've spent decades advocating for older adults and families and are considered an expert on caregiving. You also have a background in musical therapy. I'm curious, how do you bring musical therapy into your life as a family caregiver?
I used music therapy on a daily basis with my dad. We had music all day long, from getting him up in the morning, helping him wake up slowly and, changing the music to peppier music to try and get him going. I played military march music to get him to walk around the house when he was dragging his feet. He had served in World War II and the Korean War, so that was just ingrained in him. And I will say my dad loved music. I got a lot of my love of music from him. He was involved in musical theater and all types of things like that. And so that was a great tool for him. And when he would get anxious and confused and upset, I would play calming music. So it was an incredible tool, and also for myself, because, we can use music to help with stress, whether it's getting out excess energy and frustrations, or if it's calming music, meditations while going to sleep to try and help us sleep better. There are just so many incredible uses for music in caregiving.
I want you to talk a little bit more about that, thinking about the advancement of technology, which is probably changing even as we speak. Music perhaps has never been more available to us.
Absolutely.
What are your suggestions for caregivers using music as a tool for themselves or the people they're caring for?
I have lots of suggestions. In fact, I've made a couple of videos for AARP with suggestions for family caregivers. The first thing is what I mentioned previously, to help manage your loved one's mood, to motivate them, to help them calm down, to entertain them. I used to play big band music and music from the 40s for my dad because that was his music. In music therapy, we know that people respond really well to music from their 20s. So when you think about what music was popular when you're in your 20s, that always kind of evokes feelings for you. And we all kind of go back to that music. Smart speakers were something that became available while I was caregiving for my dad. And that was a game changer because literally, for example, he would become, and this is true with dementia, that you never know exactly what's going to happen. And he would become upset and anxious and scared at the drop of a hat. I never knew when that was going to happen. And I could say out loud the call word to wake up my speaker, which I won't say right now because I have one in the room here, and it'll start playing music. But I would say, play big band music or play classical music. My dad loved classical music that was calming, or play classical flute music, which flute music is very calming. And So I could do that hands off, and being able to do that with a smart speaker was incredibly helpful. I also did things like create playlists for him, daddy's music, and I could just say, play daddy's music. And then it knew what the songs were that he would respond to. Holidays were something that kept all of us going. My sister, who helped with his care too, and my mom before she passed. It's something to look forward to and experience. It's something different that day, right? So we would sing and listen to holiday music, whether it was St. Patrick's Day music or Christmas or New Year's or Easter or whatever, and try to kind of give a multi-sensory experience around those things.
Amy, what did you have to do to make it easier, perhaps, to flit about between cities with you living one place and sometimes having to go somewhere else where your loved one was located?
I look back and I honestly think I don't know how I did it for all those years. One of the things was that my sister who was living in Ohio, started coming out to Arizona when I would go out of town because we needed a family member there. And I had a sister who lived there, but she moved to California. So I would pay for my sister Linda to come and stay with mom and dad for a week or two, whatever I needed, because I was traveling for work and meetings and everything. So we always had a family member there. We did have to start paying for paid help as well, which was a huge, huge expense. The other things I would do is I had rented a place in the Washington, D.C. area where I had lived for almost 30 years. And I had kept that place because the expense of renting a hotel every time, would have been actually more expensive than my rent because I lived there so long. It was like almost like an escape for me to be able to be there, jump into my old world, go to meetings, do my professional thing, and see my boyfriend who was living in Baltimore. And, logistically, I just had to be really, really organized. And I kept everything very organized for my parents' care so that I could check out things from a distance. I had video cameras in the house so I could check in on them and talk to them through the video cameras eventually, and audio cameras. I had all kinds of those types of things. One of the things we have to do when we're in these intensive caregiving situations is figure out how to take care of ourselves. So trying to incorporate that into this busy, busy life, I learned to do little things that added up. I had an experience when my car almost ran out of gas, and I filled up with the gas. And as I pulled away from the gas tank, I thought, it's amazing. The car actually runs better on a full tank of gas. Well, duh. But that was my aha moment. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to keep filling my tank. You may have heard the oxygen mask analogy, Sheila, where they say, you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before the people you're taking care of.
Yes, when we're flying.
Yeah. And that was not for me a great analogy because the plane was going down, crashing, there are crises. Caregiving is an everyday thing. Every day, day in, day out. So I had started thinking about it as filling my tank. And it might be, in an airport, I got myself a good cup of coffee. It might be that after taking my parents to a doctor's appointment, we would go through the drive-thru and get coffee or lemonade or something. Taking a walk around the block. I got a trampoline in my bedroom and I would jump on the trampoline for exercise and to get out stress and that type of thing. So you have to find ways to incorporate it in your daily life.
And with your vast experience, how do you counsel others who are juggling these issues?
The thing about family caregiving is there is no one size fits all. Everybody's situation is so unique. We have certain things in common, though. We may have family sibling issues when caring for a parent, or we may be caring for multiple people, or we're caring for someone who has a similar disease to someone else. When I give advice to family caregivers, I try to give them very practical advice because I've lived through this and I know that we don't have time for fluffy stuff. And so we try to make it really very day-to-day practical, and try to help them find resources depending on their unique situation. Family caregivers need validation. They need somebody to know they're there. They need to feel seen. And I think that's one of the best things we can do to help family caregivers. So I really try to make sure that they know that I know and we know what they're doing and how challenging it is and how amazing it is that they are there for their loved ones.
We're going to take a brief break to hear how one online Senior Planet offering is helping one full-time caregiver connect with her musical roots and find community. Here's Nancy talking with Pam, one of the producers of Aging Rewired.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Nancy. Why don't we start with you telling us about your experience being a caregiver for your mom?
I think that when you become a caregiver, you have no idea what it's going to mean. Because I remember talking to friends who were caregivers and thinking, gee, that sounds hard. And boy, I really feel for you, and being empathetic. But until you actually become one, you have no idea of what it involves. You really don't. And there's so many people who are caretaking. I'd say probably 65 to 70% of my friends at this point are caretaking somebody.
I would love to talk a little bit about music. What role have open mics played in your life?
An incredibly huge part. Before the pandemic, I was a working performer, a singer, did concerts, gigs, went to open mics to support other musician friends, went to concerts. Music was just a huge, huge part of my life. And then COVID happened and that was gone. And I guess for the first couple of years afterwards, I wasn't singing. I wasn't really doing much with music because I was grieving. I really was. It was like my life just changed. It had been such an important part of my life.
And how did you find the Senior Planet open mic?
Well, it was a friend of mine who was a member of Senior Planet, and she was also a caregiver. And she said, I found this open mic on Senior Planet. She says, I think you'd really like it. And I'm like, okay. But I went, and Maggie, who hosts it, was just so warm and so welcoming. And so were the other performers. And, after the first time I went, I was hooked.
I'm curious what keeps you coming back. What is it that you get out of these open mic nights?
I get a chance to perform, which I love to do. And I get a chance to hear other really great musicians, a lot of different types of music. It's just the chance to be with a lot of really great performers, and you get to know them. So I don't want to miss it. I mean, it's a really important part of my life. It gives me the opportunity to do a lot of songs and perform for a large group of people.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And I feel like something when we talk about caregiving a lot, we talk about how important it is for caregivers to fight burnout and to be able to, have enough time for themselves. And so I'm curious, how does participating in a creative outlet like the open mic night provide relief for you? Does it?
Without things like Senior Planet's events and classes and things like that, I wouldn't get to do a lot. I mean, I can't go out. I have to be here to take care of her. But because everything is accessible via the internet, I can still attend things. And I think it's really important for other people too, because the population as a whole, there is a very, very large group of people who can't get out due to health issues, due to mobility issues, due to just as you get older, driving at night becomes an issue. So I think it really allows my world to be much bigger instead of without Senior Planet and other things like that, it would become very, very small. And so I feel like I've really expanded my world. I've expanded my social connections. I've expanded the ability to do things that I love with Senior Planet. So,
wow, yeah, that really touches my heart. I'm really glad to hear that, Nancy. We're always just trying to encourage more people to get involved. I guess I would ask you, why should somebody, if they're curious, come and try out the open mic?
For one thing, if they're a performer, we'd love to have you because we love hearing what people have to offer. Like I said, it's a really, really welcoming group. I'd suggest too for people who aren't performers or just like music to come, because it's a great place to come and feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
If you had a message for other caregivers out there in a similar place as you, what might it be?
There are a lot of us, and we all get it. We know what you're going through, and try and do some things just for yourself if you can, and connect with other people, connect with people who are caregivers too. It really helps to talk and be with other people who know what you're going through.
Before we go, Nancy, you said you would be willing to share a song with our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about the song that you picked?
This is a song that a friend of mine, Renee Pischke, wrote, and I happened to hear her sing it, and I thought, I just love that song. I really do. It's called New Normal.
All right. Here's Nancy performing New Normal by Renee Pischke. Enjoy.
Getting back to normal, what it means to be normal. Is it ever gonna make me feel better? I've given up on something I know I've always wanted. Now it's hard to ever picture us together. Please listen to the reasons. Am I ever gonna make it through to you? Stop with all this wishful thinking. It's not helping and you haven't got a clue. It's not a world I asked for. It's not a reality I imagined. There's not a hope for tomorrow. Keep pushing on is all I can do.
Thank you so much to Nancy for sharing her story and her voice with us all. If you're interested in joining Senior Planet Virtual Open Mic or any of our musical offerings, visit seniorplanet.org/music to view upcoming events. And now, back to my interview with Amy Goyer. Whether you are living elsewhere or maybe even living in the same community, traveling between homes can still get expensive. Setting up cameras, you mentioned the cameras you had in your home, that can be expensive. There are probably some things I'm not thinking of to ask about, but how do you guide caregivers who need those kind of resources?
So the financial aspects of caregiving are very difficult for many. And, Sheila, people don't talk about money. It's kind of one of those taboo subjects. So I decided that I would talk about money, because if I can share my experience and help another caregiver feel like they're not the only ones, then I've accomplished something in my life. It was financially devastating for me, caring for all those multiple people, the travel, all of the things. My parents' income was much better than most people's. They had planned, but by the time I got involved, all of their investments were gone. But they had long-term care insurance. I got that to kick in. That helped cover their costs in the senior community and later at home when I had paid caregivers while I worked during the day. But by the end of it, and of course, when Mom passed, we lost her long-term care insurance and her Social Security. But I got Dad veterans benefits, which again, huge, huge help. But in the end, their budget paid for the caregivers, basically, and I paid for everything else. The roof over their head, their clothing, any special equipment, all that technology you talked about, food, clothing, everything for them. And I thought I could manage it. I'm a caregiving expert. I'm not a financial expert or an accountant or a financial planner. It all got out of control for me. And I kept thinking, I can dig out of this. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do this. But I began charging on credit cards to make ends meet and do all of that. And the interest got so high that by the time my dad died, I had consulted with lawyers and financial planners and everything I possibly could to avoid it, but they all recommended bankruptcy for me. So I ended up in bankruptcy as a result of caring for all these multiple family members. Now, for family caregivers, my biggest piece of advice is to meet with a financial planner from the beginning, and someone who can also help with daily budgeting and the basics like that. Because when you're caregiving, you're trying to do everything you can for your loved one. You think they're more vulnerable than you are. But as caregivers, we're vulnerable too in multiple ways, including financially. So make sure that your loved ones are getting any public benefits they might be eligible for, whether it's the veterans benefits, which were helpful with my dad, or if maybe they can get help with the heating and utility bill. People have various options, but also try to understand what the long-term aspect of it. Alzheimer's disease, dementia is often a very long road. And when I got involved more intensively in helping my parents, I didn't know how long that would go. And then my sister passed the year after my mom did. So then I was her estate manager and trying to get her house emptied out. And I incurred debt trying to keep her house going while I emptied it out and sold it. And then it sold for less than the bank was owed. So I never got reimbursed for any of that. So these are the complications and the things that as caregivers, everybody's situation is unique. So we have to try to maximize any income our loved ones can have, their income, take care of and protect our own financial security at the same time.
We're all about empowering older adults to make tech work for them. So as an expert, how can technology be better harnessed to help older adult caregivers find relief for themselves?
One of the things that I do for AARP that I absolutely love is I moderate AARP's Facebook group. It's a family caregivers discussion group on Facebook. I urge everybody to join. We have over 21,000 family caregivers there, and most of them are older adults. And everyone is supporting each other. So that's a use of technology through social media that you can get support. I share lots of resources, links, help people problem solve. We all help each other, So it's the moral support as well as the practical support and education that I think makes a big difference. And we try to stay very positive in the group. That's one example of how technology can help you take care of yourself. Another thing is, this is something that I did. I had a lot of trouble getting to sleep, especially after my mom died. So I started listening to an app as I was going to sleep. It was a deep sleep meditation app with, calming music and a meditation that was led through. I just would put it on my phone next to my bed, and it would play a few times while I was falling asleep. And I eventually started falling asleep without even really listening to it because my brain was kind of programmed for that. It made a huge, huge difference in my life. I had never been a person who falls asleep easily. So that's an example of ways that you can use apps for self-care. Sleep especially is one of those things that you just can't do. You can even use an aromatherapy diffuser, which is a little device that you put water and aromatherapy oils in there, like lavender oil, to help you sleep better. I use that for my dad, helped him sleep better too. There's the smart speakers that we mentioned previously and ways that we can use music for our own self-care. And one more example on that. In Arizona, it gets very, very hot, like 120 degrees in the summer sometimes, right? So we were inside most of the time in the summer. And there was one day when I was just done with it. I'm done with this hot weather in July. So I started playing Christmas music because that evokes different feelings and cool weather. And so my dad and I sang Christmas music all day long and listened to it. It was just a nice break. It gave me a mental break, and he enjoyed it too. Another great thing for self-care with technology is exercise classes. When you're caregiving, you often don't have time to go to a place to do an exercise class. So you can watch videos. You can watch on Senior Planet. You can watch on AARP. There's many places that have even short, say I've got 10 minutes, what can I do in 10 minutes? and get a little exercise going. And it is easier to do when someone else is leading you and showing you what to do, I think. And sometimes you can use those as well with your loved ones that you're caring for. So those are just a smattering of ways that we can help care for ourselves as caregivers using technology.
The family caregivers discussion group sounds like fun. So I'm wondering whether there have been any surprises for you.
Lots of surprises in that group. The things that we talk about when we first started the group about 4 years ago, we had the thought that, anything goes. This is a private group. You have to ask to join, and we try to keep scammers out and all of that. And so there's a lot of bathroom talk in that group. A lot of talk about the difficult things when taking care of a loved one who has incontinence and things like that. What I think I love the most, and that kind of surprised me about the group, is what a community it formed. People will post asking, someone else, how are you doing? Who they haven't seen post for a while. So people who've never met each other, and yet they're checking in on each other. They want to know what's happening with someone who's posted that they're in the hospital with their loved one. We'll go back and check and say, how are you doing? How's your loved one doing? What's happening? I think that sense of community is really fun. And then the other thing is the humor. Just in general, I think we all know that humor can help us cope with stress. And we have a lot of humor in that group. People will tell the funny stories, the funny things that happen, like the day I forgot to put my dad's false teeth in and took him to a baseball game and took a picture and his mouth didn't have those teeth in him, and just things like that. Like, we have to laugh, right? So I think hearing that other caregivers can laugh about things is a real boost for all caregivers.
You mentioned long-term care as a resource that you were able to utilize in your own family and suggested advisors for caregivers to seek to help their own family members. I'm just wondering about any other resources that we might suggest, and even long-term care actually, for people who are 50 and younger.
Well, the first thing I would suggest that people do when looking at their own long-term care, and that just means your care over the long term, as you get older, what are the kinds of needs you're going to have over time? The first thing I would suggest people do is to investigate. Find out what's available in the community first. Contact your area agency on aging. You can go to the elder care locator to find that. The area agency on aging offers various home and community-based services. The vast majority of people want to stay in their homes as they age, in their current homes, in their current communities. So find out what's going to be available to help you. First of all, either free or low-cost services, because that's going to lower the things that you have to actually spend money on. Then think of, okay, do I want to stay in my home? If I do, what are the things I have to do to adapt my home to make it safe for me? After my dad passed away, my boyfriend and I renovated a house, and I did all the design and he did the rest. And I designed it for aging in place so that there is a bathroom on the first floor that is accessible. We have an elevator shaft kind of that we can add a lift if we need to get into the house. It might be simple things like transitioning to one floor living or improving the lighting and getting rid of fall hazards, those kinds of things. So check out AARP's Home Fit Guide for a lot of good suggestions there. And then look at if you want to live somewhere else, if you want assisted living or another situation, find out what's available in your community. Financial planning is a big piece of this. So I do suggest work with a financial planner. Even if you don't feel like you have a lot of money, after my bankruptcy, I started working with a financial planner because, I had nothing. But I slowly am trying to build backups and savings and that type of thing. And, they can help you figure out what you're going to need in the future. What's your Social Security going to be? What are your options going to be? In terms of long-term care insurance, it's a good idea to consult with a professional who is well-versed on long-term care insurance, and that might include your financial planner, might include an elder law attorney, and a broker who can show you what the various options are. And if it's right for you, it's not right for everyone. but for many people, it can be incredibly helpful. My parents had a great policy. The policies have changed a lot over time, and not all policies are created equal. So really do your homework before you get into that.
Amy, this is wonderful advice. Thank you so much for today's conversation.
It was absolutely a pleasure to talk with you today, and I hope that a lot of family caregivers or potential family caregivers learned something today that will be helpful to them.
I'm sure they will. Thank you for listening to Aging Rewired, a podcast by Senior Planet from AARP. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. To join the AARP Family Caregivers discussion group, read Amy's writing, and gain access to many more resources, visit aarp.org/caregiving. And if you'd like to learn more about Senior Planet's free technology classes, resources, and online community related to caregiving, visit seniorplanet.org/caregiving or call our toll-free hotline at 888-713-3495. Until next time, I'm Sheila Solomon, and this is Aging Rewired.